someone please explain to me, why are we losing our shit over the sacking of Dan Ashworth? Actually, the sacking of Dan Ashworth shows me that INEOS might actually know what they're doing. That INEOS might actually be the right people to lead us back to the top of the mountain. Because if you were with me in the early days, which some of you weren't, you know that I was always mistrusting of INEOS. I didn't like the way they got into the club in the first place by making a deal with the Glazers to get in, to show the Glazers that they can make the club more profitable. To be fair, I didn't name this thumbnail of this video anything like why Ashworth got sacked, because I'm not trying to get clickbait. If you know me, you know by now this is just me having a conversation. But let's talk about my hypotheticals of why I think Dan Ashworth got sacked and what I think actually happened. So if we're about to go into this January transfer window and it's all hands on deck, it's emergency time, and then you go to Dan Ashworth and go, okay, what's the plan? And Dan Ashworth goes, I know exactly the right people to hire to make us a plan. It's like, what the fuck? What are you doing here? Why are you here? So I'm recording this one day after just posting a video. I mean, I literally just posted a brand new video last night that I recorded right after the game. And you guys know, because that game was so darn awful, I was very, very angry in the video last night. So I woke up this morning at 6 a.m. Los Angeles time, and the first thing I did was check the comments to see how many people actually hated that video. Because, like I said, I was angry. I wasn't exactly my usual self in last night's video. Fuck. What I found in the comments was that most of you guys actually felt the same way as I did, which really surprises me pretty much every single time I make a video. Sometimes I feel like some of the things I say are not the things I hear online from other videos and other content creators and YouTubers and people on Twitter and stuff like that. So I'm like, man, maybe I'm alone in these thoughts, in these beliefs. Maybe people are going to hate my ideas, hate what I have to say. And that's what I expect to see in the comments. But usually you guys are like on the same page as I am, which is really freaking cool to see, first of all, but also a little bit weird that 99% of the things I read or see on other channels and hear pundits say on big network television stations is completely not the same things as I say and I believe. So thank you so much for the support. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I do get those crazy comments or comments that don't agree with me. I shouldn't call them crazy. Comments that don't agree with me that say things that are just really mean, like you don't know ball or something of that nature, which actually kind of makes me smile because, not to brag or toot my own horn, I'm pretty sure they're not actual professional coaches, even though it's not in the sport of football, but at least I coach for a living, so I know a little bit about training athletes or players and trying to get something out of them. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about, and I'm sorry about that, actually. So let's move on. So I'm reading the comments, and through reading your comments at 6 a.m. in Los Angeles time, one of you actually let me in on the fact that Dan Ashworth has been sacked. I hadn't checked online yet. I haven't looked at any news yet. I was just reading the comments because, like I said, I was really worried about how I may have come off in last night's video. I mean, there were a couple times where I regretted posting it because I'm like, oh my God, I cursed way too much. I said negative things about almost every player on our squad. So I was like, people are going to hate me. I should have waited until I calmed down before I make a video. But I wouldn't be true to you guys and I wouldn't be true to myself if I held back. So I did post it, but I was waiting for a storm this morning. That didn't happen. But one of you told me that Dan Ashworth got sacked. What? So I jump online and I start reading all the news and starting to put two and two together. And Dan Ashworth did get sacked. Omar Berrada was the one who called him in for a meeting and let him know that they're probably going to part ways. Now it says mutual agreement, but we both know mutual agreement does not mean mutual agreement. And I wanted to make a video today. So even though I had to work all day, it's nighttime right now. There's no sun outside. I'm doing this at home at night. And I'm still going to put in as much effort as I can to make a decent video. And I even have some ideas of what I want to edit in. But also in today's video, we're going to talk about a comment I got on yesterday's video from a Sporting fan from Portugal. This man wrote out in detail in the comment section some things he knows about Ruben Amorim, what he believes is going to happen with our team, and how the evolution of our team is going to go through. I even responded to his comment and asked him a follow-up question, which he so greatly answered. We're going to get to that, and we're going to talk about the comment and his beliefs and what I believe. He's probably right on this. I mean, he would know more about Ruben Amorim than any of us Manchester United fans. So, Diogo, thank you so much for your comment. Thank you so much for your insights. I hope you don't mind that I'm going to share those insights and maybe even read out some of your comments on this video. If you do mind, I'm so sorry, man. I didn't. I try to warn you in my response that I'm probably going to talk about this stuff. But if you do mind, just let me know in the comments that you don't want it out there, and I won't do it again. But please keep in touch, keep commenting. I'd love to hear your ideas and your thoughts as we evolve with Ruben Amorim and as we move forward. Let's get back to our Dan Ashworth discussion before we talk about what Diogo had to say about Ruben Amorim and how we evolve forward. What's up, YouTube? Thank you so much for joining me once again. Thank you for clicking on the thumbnail. I am Semeex. This is Semeex Football. If this is the first time that you're joining us, please drop a like or consider subscribing if you like what I do. And thanks again. So let's get right into it. My thoughts on Dan Ashworth. If you don't know my thoughts on Dan Ashworth, then you haven't been with this channel a long time, and it's okay. This channel has only been alive for less than a year. It's only been 11 months. I started at the end of January of this year, so we are still not at our 1-year anniversary. And by the way, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. So yes, please drop that subscribe or like. Make sure this video gets around. But anyways, if you haven't been with me for that long, then maybe you didn't see my early videos. And believe me, not a lot of you did. I used to only get about 20 to 60 views of video in the first 10 that I posted. First 4 only got like 20 or 30 views, and then it started to grow to 60 and 70, and we are where we're at now, which is still low, but hey, we're making progress, we're moving forward. But anyways, if you don't know how I feel about Dan Ashworth, you're about to find out. But first, before we find out my thoughts on the Dan Ashworth sacking, what I want to know is, what's the deal? What is going on with these content creators? Literally every YouTube station or channel that I watched today, every content creator that I saw, whether it's on Twitter or on YouTube, all I kept seeing is this disgust or this disdain of what INEOS has done by sacking Dan Ashworth, how it's causes chaos, or it shows that they don't know what they're doing, or whatever. I don't know, all this nonsense. I don't understand it. So someone please explain to me, why are we losing our shit over the sacking of Dan Ashworth? Actually, the sacking of Dan Ashworth shows me that INEOS might actually know what they're doing, that INEOS might actually be the right people to lead us back to the top of the mountain. Because if you were with me in the early days, which some of you weren't, you know that I was always mistrusting of INEOS. I didn't like the way they got into the club in the first place by making a deal with the Glazers to get in, to show the Glazers that they can make the club more profitable. Now, I still have an issue with that, but the thing that pissed me off the most was the stuff with the Dan Ashworth situation. That stuff made me feel like that I can't really trust them. But do you guys realize what it must take of someone like Sir Jim Ratcliffe to admit he was wrong? I mean, this is a man who went on interviews and on TV and said things like Dan Ashworth is a 10 out of 10, an outstanding sport director, one of the best in the world. And to now sack him is kind of like admitting you were wrong. That takes a special kind of person, because billionaires are usually filled with ego and eager to prove themselves right no matter what. So for him to be able to just take a step back and go, maybe that was a bad decision and maybe we have to let this guy go, is a good thing. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Listen, in the beginning, I must have made a half a dozen videos saying negative things about Dan Ashworth and telling you guys how worried I was about this appointment, while every other YouTuber and content creator and everybody else was celebrating the appointment because we may have gotten one over Newcastle or something like that. Like we beat Newcastle or we took somebody from Newcastle. I didn't feel that way. And again, not a lot of people were watching those videos, so I know you must have missed it. So what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll try to find a couple of examples, not all of them, or else you guys will be watching videos for the next 20 minutes. But I'll try to edit in a couple examples, try to keep it under 3 minutes of things that I had said in the past that made me worried about Dan Ashworth. So roll the tape. Wait. Before we roll the tape, because I just watched a couple of the clips. Before we roll the tape, I gotta let you guys realize, back then I didn't really know what I was doing. I may have talked a little bit slower than I talk today on these videos, because now I really want to keep the videos moving and exciting for everybody to keep them interested in watching. And you'll notice the background is way different, and I tried a couple different backgrounds, and everything about the videos look a little different, so hang in there. But at least you get to see the evolution of the channel and the evolution of me as a presenter and how we got to where we are today. Thank you so much for being with me. For those of you who have been with me for this long, I can't even believe people would subscribe back then after watching some of these clips. Anyway, now we can roll the tape. Roll the tape. Is that INEOS was so gung-ho about Dan Ashworth. Dan Ashworth hasn't done anything. He hasn't won anything. He hasn't done anything. I don't trust Dan Ashworth. I don't trust INEOS, except for Berrada, who probably comes with such a good resume that they just can't ignore it. And Berrada's a genius signing. Like, that's a great CEO to have, in my opinion. the thing that makes me nervous about INEOS is we bring in a Dan Ashworth, who's not a winner, and we call him best in class. And then we might start doing that with players too. It doesn't just end there. We can't trust them yet. They haven't done anything for us to trust them, other than hire Omar Berrada, which I really love that hire. But that it wasn't them looking for Berrada. They hired headhunters to go look for a CEO, and they may have gotten word that, hey, Berrada's available if you guys are interested. And then they looked at his resume and went, oh yeah, we're interested. Other than that, though, like Dan Ashworth, they didn't hire a headhunter. That's just Dave Brailsford going, hey, that guy's good. He's my friend. I know him. Best in class. If they are, we'll come back. You can clip me. We'll come back and circle on this, and I'll keep saying INEOS are a bunch of dumb people who make dumb decisions. I don't think that. I don't think that because Omar Berrada, I think, is a great decision. Jason Wilcox, I think, is a good decision. Not sure about Dan Ashworth, but can't be that bad. Now, if he appoints Gareth Southgate, then he is dumb, and Dan Ashworth is the cause of this. I don't think Omar Berrada is somebody who values Gareth Southgate. I saw an interview where Sir Jim Ratcliffe calls Dan Ashworth a 10 out of 10 out of sporting directors. Here's my question to you. Why does Dan Ashworth get to be called one of the best sporting directors, a 10 out of 10, when he hasn't proven it? Calling Dan Ashworth one of the best, a 10 out of 10, is like an insult to whoever the sporting director is at Bayern Munich or Real Madrid. One example of bad decisions and bad management, I believe, is the great lengths they went to try to get Dan Ashworth, which has turned around and bit them right in the ass. Now, they claim that Dan Ashworth is worth it. I don't know if he is. There were other sporting directors out there that they could have brought in. Paul Mitchell's just sitting at home. But forget Paul Mitchell. You don't like Paul Mitchell. Fine. There are others out there that you could have got from other teams that have actually won something. I still stand by the fact that Dan Ashworth being best in class comes from nowhere. That's just an opinion with no proof to back it up. And that's just some of the old clips. And you can see right there in those clips that I was very, very pro Berrada. I think Berrada is a great appointment. I still have high hopes for Berrada. I think Berrada is going to lead us to where we want to be. And Dan Ashworth, I was just never sure about it. I just didn't understand it. I don't even understand why most British people or English people believe him to be one of the best. I don't think anyone outside of Britain think he's one of the best. That's just the truth, because I don't think anybody outside of Brighton would think somebody who's never won a damn thing could be considered one of the best. It doesn't make sense to anybody, ever, anywhere. How can you say this guy is one of the best at what he does? Has he won anything? No. Well, then what? Wait, he's in a business where you win things and you get trophies for being one of the best, but he's never won anything, yet you consider him to be one of the best? I don't get that. I just think maybe because he was in charge of the FA and because they finally make it to like semifinals and tournaments. They still haven't won, by the way. And because they make it to finals and tournaments now, they consider him one of the best. That is so weird to me. That doesn't make sense. Maybe because I'm American. And in America, we believe in you're either one or you're not, right? You're either Tiger Woods or you're not. You're either Michael Jordan or you're not. You're not. You can't be called one of the best if you've never won a championship. Period. That's just. Sometimes I see people on Twitter that say that ask questions. Maybe it's because they're trying to get engagement, and I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But I see these questions on Twitter or polls that say like, "Can Marcus Rashford be considered a Manchester United legend?" No. And I actually love Rashford. You can go back and watch a bunch of my videos from the past. Rashford's my favorite player on the squad. Now, will I be upset if we sold Rashford? Yes and no. I would understand why we would be selling Rashford. So that's my opinion on Rashford, and I don't want to go on about that. But he is one of my favorite players on the squad. I'm not going to call him a Manchester United legend until he lifts a trophy of either the Premier League or the Champions League. If you don't lift one of those, you can't go down. How can you put somebody on the same level as some of our legends, the ones that have won us trophies? Because what, he came through the academy? So did Beckham. So did Giggs. So did Scholes. I'm not going to put Rashford up there on a pedestal with these guys. Yeah, no, he's not a legend. But again, it's a weird thing that I think only maybe it happens in outside of England. I just feel like because I follow football and I watch a lot of English football that in the English camp, they pump up their own way over what, results show. Am I wrong? If I'm wrong and you're English and you don't like what I just said, go ahead and leave it in the comments below and let me know. Maybe we could have a discussion about it, but I can see why you would feel some sort of way if you're English and you just hear me say what I just said. I would feel some sort of way if you said something about Americans that I don't maybe 100% agree with, but I would try to see your logic in it. So please try to see my logic in what I just said. Don't just judge because I said something negative about English people. Other than that, I think most English people are great. I just don't understand why you pump people up that don't deserve to be pumped up. That's all. Anyways, so everybody right now is on this kick of trying to figure out why did Dan Ashworth get sacked in the first place? Like it's this big freaking mystery. So I'm going to help you see it my way. Let's take a look at some examples that I think we can all derive from. Now, most of these are hypotheticals because I don't know why he got sacked. And to be fair, I didn't name this thumbnail of this video anything like why Ashworth got sacked because I'm not trying to get clickbait. If you know me, you know by now, this is just me having a conversation. But let's talk about my hypotheticals of why I think Dan Ashworth got sacked and what I think actually happened. First and foremost, we got to talk about Erik ten Hag not losing his job after summer or during the summer when Manchester United was supposedly interviewing with 100 different managers, right? So we talked about Roberto De Zerbi, Frank Thomas Tuchel. I think even Ruben Amorim was a part of that process. We interviewed a bunch of managers. I made videos about it, and we didn't know whether we're keeping Erik ten Hag or not. And in the end, they supposedly flew out to where he was holidaying and told him that we believe in you. We want to keep you around. Remember that whole story? But anyways, it seems that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has a problem with that. And he rightly so should have a problem with that because you don't go into that sort of exercise. You don't do that thing. Now, at the time, I did say that I'm happy they kept Erik ten Hag, and I stand by that. At the time, that's what I thought was the right move. Now, I regret it, but it's not my job to make that decision. It's Dan Ashworth's job. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe, as his boss or owner or whatever you want to call it, has the right to be upset because the man made the wrong decision. That's what bosses do. Bosses give you a task or a project to handle, to be in charge of, and if you make the wrong decision, you have to suffer the consequences. But now we're reading things like whenever Sir Jim Ratcliffe sat down with Dan Ashworth or had a meeting with Dan Ashworth and asked him for his opinion or insight on who the next manager should be, Dan Ashworth did not have any ideas. And he wanted to hire an outside data analysis firm or company or whatever to help come up with the right ideas. And if that's the case, then why do we even need Dan Ashworth? INEOS are the type of people who look for redundancy in the company and get rid of people who are not needed. Hence why they laid off so many people. I'm not saying that's a great thing. I feel bad for anybody who loses their job except for Dan Ashworth. I'm talking about the regular blue-collar worker. I don't feel bad for Dan Ashworth because the guy's probably a millionaire. He's got more money than he knows what to do with. He's going to be fine. He's going to find another job. He's going to be just fine. He's okay. Even before he got the job with us, he was on gardening leave, getting paid a ridiculous amount of money to stay at home and hang out, watch TV in his shorts or whatever. He is going to be fine. So I'm not talking about Dan Ashworth, but a lot of people who work hard for their money to barely pay their rent or take care of their families got laid off by INEOS who work for Manchester United because INEOS decided that their jobs were redundant. They were not needed in the club. So when Dan Ashworth gets paid more than maybe 15 of these employees combined, probably more, but let's just say 15 of those employees who got laid off combined, he gets paid more than that. And when he's asked for his opinion, he's saying, oh, let's spend some money and get this other firm company. Let's outsource them to make that decision or give you the answer you just asked me for. Well, in that case, why do I need you? I could have come up with that idea. I don't need you to come up with an idea of to pay somebody else to tell me the answer to the question that I have. I hired you to answer the question that I have. That's how I would think if I were Sir Jim Ratcliffe. So tell me why there's so many people on YouTube going crazy that Dan Ashworth got fired or sacked. He wasn't good at his job. That's why he got sacked. He was never a 10 out of 10. He was never one of the best. He's not the same guy who led Bayern Munich to trophies, Real Madrid to trophies. How is this hard to understand, guys? If you're with me, leave a comment down below. If you're not with me, definitely leave a comment down below and tell me why. How am I the wrong one, or how am I the crazy one? And I should be upset that they let Dan Ashworth go. Someone explain to me why I should be upset that they let Dan Ashworth go. Would you rather he stayed here until the summer? We don't know what kind of discussions they've had about the January transfer window. God knows that they know that we need players this January, and it's a desperation time. We definitely need players this January. And so we don't usually make transfers in the winter transfer window. We end up doing stupid things like loans, which isn't completely stupid, but it just shows that you're trying to put a Band-Aid on a freaking gunshot wound. That's how it is to make a loan in January. Unless you're trying to replace someone who's injured, and because they're going to be back in a couple of months, so you do a loan in January to cover for an injured player, no problem. That's not the problem here. We're trying to replace bad players who aren't injured. They're fit. They're just not good. So a loan's not going to do. So if we're about to go into this January transfer window and it's all hands on deck, it's emergency time, and then you go to Dan Ashworth and go, okay, what's the plan? And Dan Ashworth goes, I know exactly the right people to hire to make us a plan. It's like, what the fuck? What are you doing here? Why are you here? There's other rumors going around that maybe Dan Ashworth didn't even want the Ruben Amorim appointment. He wanted to hire that outside company. Maybe he wasn't too confident on the Ruben Amorim thing, that Omar Berrada was driving the Ruben Amorim appointment. Omar Berrada and Jason Wilcox. I mean, it was Omar Berrada that got on the plane and flew to Lisbon to go have a meeting with the Sporting president to make that thing happen. From what I heard, nowhere in those articles did it say that Dan Ashworth accompanied him on that flight. So Omar might have gone by himself and made that deal happen. That's a red flag. That's definitely a red flag. The other thing now we're hearing is that on Ruben Amorim's second day on the job at Carrington, Dan Ashworth was on holiday. Now, this is my gut feeling, so I might be wrong. But my gut feeling is that maybe it was Dan Ashworth's fault that Marcus Rashford and Casemiro ended up in the States taking vacation and going to basketball games or whatever they were going to, and going to Disney World for Casemiro, when they could have been back at home only taking 2 days off and training with Ruben Amorim, the new coach. Maybe that was that, because Dan Ashworth's the sporting director. He could have easily said, no, you can't do that. You only get 2 or 3 days off. Then you got to report back to Carrington and train with your new manager. So maybe that also pissed Sir Jim Ratcliffe off. We don't know how many of these things happen. I mean, this is the same idiot who CC'd his old work email at Newcastle when he shouldn't have been talking to Omar Berrada, right? So, I mean, he's not, I don't know, man. I've always been against Dan Ashworth, so I'm a little bit biased there, but I think my bias, it comes in like, is relevant. I don't think my bias is out of nowhere. I really think this guy hasn't proven anything to anybody. Now, possible replacements might be the sporting director of Atletico Madrid. I completely forgot his name. But his sporting director of Atletico Madrid is a possible replacement, and that's kind of interesting. I don't know if I'm in for it or into it so much, but at least he's won things, especially in a league where he's not supposed to be winning things, and he's sometimes found a way to help build a team that can beat Real Madrid and Barcelona to a title. That's pretty impressive. And then you've got Jason Wilcox, who's already with us, and Christopher Vivell, who's already with us. Now, I don't like the idea of promoting Jason Wilcox or Christopher Vivell, but hey, if we need to do it because we don't want to spend any more money getting anybody else in or anyone new in, I totally understand, and I would be okay with that. Because at least now these guys who are coming in, who just saw Dan Ashworth get kicked out, know what the bar is. They know what the expectations are, and they know if they fall short of those expectations, it's bye-bye to you too. And that, actually, I don't mind. So I don't mind if we promote from within when the people being promoted just saw what happened to the last guy. The last guy didn't make it out easy. The last guy got kicked to the curb because of some things he did that obviously the ownership didn't like. I like this. I like this because this is how we always say we want our players to be under that kind of pressure. We always say our players shouldn't be shown favoritism. If we don't like something they're doing, they should be benched. They don't get to play the next game. I don't care who you are. So I like this. Somebody now needs to explain to me why people are running around saying negative things about this. This is amazing. Good job, INEOS. My hat's off to INEOS and Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Good job. I am beginning to trust you. And from now on, because I believe that Dan Ashworth was an appointment by Dave Brailsford because they knew each other from their England days together or whatever. From now on, hopefully, this is a sign or signal for Dave Brailsford to stay out of the footballing things. We don't care who you know. We don't care who your friends are, who you've gone to dinner with, and who you get along with. Let's get the best people in place. And I believe that most of the decision was driven by Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Omar Berrada. And I really trust Omar Berrada. And you know what would really kind of be funny? If we can get that ex-Man City technical director sporting, what's his name? Zeke Bergstein. I don't know his freaking name. Fuck, someone help me out in the comments below. Zeke, you know what I'm talking about. Zeke and Omar Berrada used to work very close together. Can you imagine if like a week or two from now, or a day or two from now, the way INEOS operate, it comes out in the news that Zeke, once he's done with his gardening leave, is going to come join Manchester United? That would be crazy. Or maybe he's sick of living in Manchester and already moved out. I don't know. I don't know what the guy's doing, but I thought of that right away. As soon as I heard Omar Berrada had a meeting with Dan Ashworth and Dan Ashworth sacked, I was like, oh my God, is Omar going to bring Zeke in to Manchester United? That would be crazy. I should have just left it at Manchester because City's City. They're not Manchester. All right, this is a different section of the video today. Now we're going to talk about one of the comments, one of our viewers. I'm going to say our viewers because it feels weird to say my viewers. One of you. I'm going to talk about a comment one of you left for me. It's a Sporting Lisbon fan, straight from Portugal, I believe from Lisbon. From Lisbon. His name is Diogo. I'm not going to say his last name or read out his whole thing because I don't know how private he wants to keep it. Maybe I shouldn't even said the word Diogo. So I want to respect him. I want to respect his privacy. And like I said, I don't know how much I can give away, but I'm going to talk a little bit about some things he put in his comments. In his comment, he said, first thing he said was, I have it right here in front of me, by the way. So if you catch me peeking down, it's because I want to stay true. I don't want to make things up. I want to see if I can stay true to what he said. So he said he just subscribed and he's a Sporting supporter. And he says I'm on to something because of some things I said in my last video. And I believe it's something I've been saying in a couple of videos now. And the first thing he goes into is that Amorim's going to do is create a structure, a set of movements and principles that they will all perform with their eyes closed. So this is what what I believe he's talking about. And Diogo, if you're here with us, please correct me in the comments down below. But I believe what Diogo's talking about is how I've been saying the last 3 or 4 games, that the first thing I'm looking for is a set of movements, just like he's saying, patterns, just to help us build out and get into our shape and stay in our shape, and little patterns, nothing complicated, but something they're going to keep doing over and over again. And that's exactly what I've been saying we're seeing in these games. Now, what else do I say? I say that in these games, I'm watching for new things and new attacking patterns, especially in the attacking third. I'm looking for creativity and new runs, diagonal runs, especially from the 10s, and for the 9 to come back and link up play a little bit, and then also crosses from the wingers and stuff like that. Stuff that I saw Sporting do. Now, granted, Diogo has watched Sporting a million times more than me. I've only watched about 5 or 6 games I think I watched before Ruben Amorim joined. But it's obvious what they were doing. But I also watched some highlights and stuff of past years with their past players, because I wanted to make sure that what I'm saying is what, basically a part of his system, no matter who the players are. And I noticed that some things are relatively the same, no matter if you look at Ruben Amorim 3 years ago, 4 years ago, or Ruben Amorim last year. And Diogo's saying that he's going to first build a team of low-quality players and make sure that they all can do the movements with their eyes closed. So they're going to know where each other is, which I found interesting. He will only start to be able to help players to be their better versions after he has a team that plays the system with their eyes closed. So think about that. If he's still standing on the sidelines telling people where to go, which is what we're seeing him do like crazy these days. He's still standing on the sidelines, go there, go here, press, don't press, come back, whatever. You're seeing all these things, so they still don't know where to go. They always check in, too. If you watch the players carefully, every once in a while, you catch a glimpse of them looking over their shoulder to Ruben to check in to see, am I in the right spot here? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? So what Diogo's saying is he's only going to be able to help them become better versions of themselves once they've mastered those movements and can do it with their eyes closed, which is very interesting. And he says that he's a team manager, football's a team sport, and then he will slowly start buying players that will fit like a glove into the system, picked by hand with a specific set of skills. Music to my ears. Music to my ears that they're going to be picked by him. And this is something that he let us know right away in his first or second press conference once he joined. Once he joined in his first or second press conference, he said that I'm the manager. I should have final say-so. Now, we all know that we're trying to call him a head coach in the media, and Manchester United is trying to call him all these things and say we're going to change our structure and all this other bullshit that we've heard, and we've heard it on some YouTubers' channels too. But the manager himself the head coach, the manager, whatever the hell you want me to call Ruben Amorim, he himself called himself a manager and said that he should have final say on transfers. And that is that. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't care which YouTuber has what connection at Manchester United or whoever the hell is telling me that we are not going to listen to man. Like, that's not true. And then they'll tell you, like, well, they're going to correspond with the manager. Dude, they can correspond with the manager all they want. If Ruben Amorim says, no, I'm not going to play him, that's it. Discussion's over. Discussion is over. There is no, well, we're going to buy him anyway. No. So then when people tell me, like, Erik ten Hag had a veto, Ruben Amorim has a veto. It's just not in writing. It means nothing to have it in writing. All the manager has to do is go, I'm not going to play him. Go ahead, buy him. I'm not going to play him. And then what do you do? What do you buy him anyway? Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So let's not talk about that anymore. He will, as Diogo says here, there will be handpicked for a specific skill or set of skills that fit his system. I love this stuff. I really do, because it shows me what our progress is going to be. And I guarantee you that Ruben Amorim today already knows 2 or 3 players that he is sure are never going to work in his system. And I think we can kind of guess who they are. Now, the other thing that Diogo brings up in his response to me after I asked him a question, in his follow-up response to me, he brought up the fact that Ruben Amorim substitutes players all the time. He will not have the starting 11 the same all the time. Even Gyökeres, he brings up in his comments, I'll try to read it right here. Not even with Gyökeres in our team got any special treatment. No one is above the team, no one. And if Gyökeres, because of fitness reasons, needed a rest, Ruben Amorim would put his ass on the bench. Gyökeres, who is like, you guys, everybody knows Gyökeres level. And if Ruben felt like he wasn't fit even a little bit, he'd be on the bench. So, and this is a Sporting team that doesn't play every 2 or 3 days like we play, especially in the month of December. So we're in the month of December, and people start complaining, oh, we're chasing a goal, and he benches Bruno Fernandes. How could he bench Bruno Fernandes? Is it Fernandes or Fernandes? I try my best with the Portuguese names. It's just, I just don't know it, but I think it's Bruno Fernandes. He benched Bruno Fernandes, and I just saw Twitter like blow up. I saw people on YouTube blow up and go, you don't take Bruno Fernandes out when you're trying to chase a goal. I saw pundits say that, and I'm going like, when have you won anything? I'm sorry, when have you managed? Again, to bring this to myself, because I can't speak for Ruben Amorim, but I can speak for myself. To bring this on myself, anytime anyone questions my coaching ability, I always look at them and go, I'm sorry, one of us has done this for over a decade, and you've never done this. That's just your opinion. Mine's called a professional opinion. And again, I'm talking about my sport, not football. This isn't me. I'm just talking from, but it happens. It happens to me too. People question your coaching ability because they think it's a sport, that anyone can have an opinion and it's just as valid as anybody else because it's a sport. And it's kind of insulting, because imagine like if I'm a lawyer or a doctor or something else, no one would question me, right? Like if I'm a lawyer or a doctor, they wouldn't come to my job and pretend to know better than me about what to do at my job, because they kind of respect that in some weird way, right? They respect that, oh, well, you're a lawyer or you're a doctor, so you know what you're doing, and I'm just I'm an accountant or whatever. Not that being an accountant is just same thing for an accountant. Like imagine showing up in an accountant's office and the guy's not an accountant and goes, you know how you could save money on your taxes? It's like, dude, I do this for a living, man. Like I've been doing this a very long time. And you're telling me what to do? It's the same way I feel about Ruben Amorim being questioned by pundits, even if they're ex-players. An ex-player is not the same as an ex-coach. And this is a guy who's like been winning like crazy. He's really good at what he does. And you got pundits going, I just can't believe he started that 11. Shut the fuck up. Anyway, Diogo, I just want to say thank you so much for commenting. Thank you for subscribing, man. And thank you for, it's when I get people like that come into my comments and say things the way Diogo outlined things there. And he put in a lot more. So if you guys are interested, go back to the comments of the last video that I just posted yesterday and read Diogo's comments. It's really enlightening. It's really refreshing to hear. And I love it just makes me want to make another video. That's another reason why I made a video today. Yes, Dan Ashworth got sacked, and I'm not upset about that. And I wanted to make a video because everybody else I saw making videos was completely the opposite vibe as what I have when I heard the news. And so I wanted to come out and be like, hey guys, I think it's going to be okay. I think actually it's going to be better than okay. I think this is the right move. If you feel like the guy's not right for the job, get him out now. Let's not waste any time. Thank you very much, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and thank you very much, Sir Dave Brailsford, for just letting Omar Berrada do Omar Berrada things. And I really think that that's where this is coming from. I believe Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants it done too, but I believe that Omar Berrada planted the seed to start this whole I think Dan Ashworth needs to go movement. And I'm on board. Good job. Yes. But the other reason why I made a video today is because of these comments I read from you guys that encourage me to keep going. Again, you guys know I have less than 1,000 subscribers. By the way, if you're still here watching this long and you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, what are you waiting for, man? Hit the button. Hit the button. I work hard. Hit the button. I'm begging now. Anyways, thank you very much, guys. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for encouraging me to keep going, and thank you for helping me have a good year. Let's get to 1,000 before New Year's so that I can start the new year with over 1,000, and then maybe next year we'll do the journey to 10,000. Let's see. Thank you, and I'll see you soon. Bye.